Hello, everyone. Today is December 2nd, 2020. This is the Kubernetes Data Protection Working Group meeting. So let's look at this meeting agenda. We will just go over the CAPS update and then look at how we're doing with the data protection workflow white paper. And then if you have any issues you want to talk about, you can add it in the open discussion section. Okay, so let's get started. So the first one, snapshot. So this is going GA in 1.20. We can look at what is remaining. So this is the project tracking board. So we are doing well. I think a lot of things are merged. So one major thing that is pending is the metrics, adding metrics support to snapshot controller, but there is a PR that has been reviewed. I think it's getting close to be merged. And then there's also this update of the controller. So that one is also ready for review. So I think those are the major ones that we need to get in before cutting a release. And then there are a few other things that we can do after that. There are a few other things like EG test for secrets. Those we have the test, but we can't merge right now because it's frozen for 1.20. So we can get that merged later, but the test itself is ready. Yeah, so this one I'm working on creating, basically when you're creating a PVC with a data source, you're using an in-tree plugin that should fail. So that's something that I'm working on, but that's something that we can do after the 1.20. And yeah, I think we just got the third rotation for webhook PR that it's just merged, and then use driver name in PV that's also merged. So yeah, so think of from this project tracking board, it looks good. And also Shanti and I are working on a release blog. So yeah, so that's for volume snapshot. Any questions? Okay, going on next is the data populator. I don't know if Ben is here on the call. Looks like Ben is not. Okay, yeah, so we have weekly design meetings for that. I think Ben is working on a POC that is in progress. He has some PRs submitted. So that's, I think that's in good progress. So the plan is doing the POC now and then maybe try to bring that to beta in 1.21. And then Cozy, I think Cozy also is doing fine. There's a lot of progress. The team is busy working on POC. So there are weekly meetings. And then
what are the steps ahead for Cozy? That still has to be submitted to become part of the cluster API, doesn't it?
Not cluster API. So this is so right now, basically, we have the cap merged. So right now it's provisional, merged as provisional in 1.20. So 1.21, we will try to bring that to alpha.
Got it.
So in this release, just trying to get some POC ready, making the project in good progress, setting up the CI and all of that. So right now it's all the CRDs, is a lot of tree. I think in the future, there's a plan maybe to try to bring some pieces in tree, but that's not, right now we have a separate repos, like we have, I think 4 repos under Kubernetes 6 for the cozy spec, for the API controller adapter. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And so content notifier, I think Shanti and I, we still need to sync up on this one. And then we will need to get a few issues resolved. Basically, those are like API design issues, how we are going to do status update, things like that. So we will work on that. And voting group also, I think I need to update the cap again. So there is an update, and then I think there are some comments that some review comments that I need to address. Also need to schedule a review meeting for that to move that forward. So those are all the updates on the caps. Any questions before we move on to just go over the data protection workflow progress? Okay. So yeah, so today we don't have like a particular topic here. I think we had some discussions on CBT, but I think we need some time to sort out a few things before we bring it back to have a discussion in this meeting. So Fang, I think maybe in the next meeting we should be ready to do an update on that in 2 weeks.
We can drop some update, but I think we still have some meeting going on with the API with the CBT, right? We haven't got up to any material that we can present yet.
Yeah, I'm saying in 2 weeks we probably can.
Probably, yeah.
Talk about in 2 weeks. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this is the general document that has what all the things that we are working at. So we already have, so for the first section, why we need to do data protection in Kubernetes, we already have a draft doc. Use case section, we also have that. So we reviewed those already. So what is currently available? I think, yeah, so we already have information. We just need to put this together. So Shantian and I need to fill this section. And then what are the missing building blocks? So so for volume backups, right now I think we do have the stock which was produced by Andrew some time ago. I'm not sure if Shantian, is this like Elliot or someone might be working on this, or is it Alex?
Yeah, Alexi and Elliot will be working on this. Yes.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Okay. And then backup repositories, we also had a couple of meetings. We do have a work in progress doc. I think we are actually waiting for some conclusion from the CPT side before we going back to this. So, right, Prashanto, I think that's which kind of pending.
Sorry, what was that?
I was saying that for backup repositories, I think we are waiting for some conclusion from the CPT side, and then we can go back to this. I thought that was the last time when we talked about this. There was some question related to CPT.
With respect to CBT,
I thought that was the last meeting. There were some questions coming out when we were going through this, and then so we said, okay, let's finish that one, come back to this one. Do you think there is that's how I remembered it. Was there anything else that is pending?
I'll check it again. I think from content perspective, we had everything, and I think the broader APIs or the good to haves or the enhancements that we thought we spoke about. I think we just decided to park it for now, and then we'll come back to it once we kind of finish off the white paper. So I think for the white paper, from the white paper angle, we should be good for now.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Yeah. Okay, so next one, data populator. I think we already talked about this. Data populator and the quiet and unquiet. This is the content notifier. So we do have a doc for this one as well. We also reviewed that. And then the cap is being reviewed. And then CBT, yeah, so we just talk about this. So we still need to sort out a few things, especially the API. Need to figure out the common APIs before we come back and discuss more in this meeting. And then working group and group snapshot. So I think we just mentioned that, and there's a cap. I need to update that. For application backup restore workflow, we also have a doc. I think we did review that last time. And then there was also a cap that was submitted sometime a while back. Yeah, so I think those are all the things that we are working on for this white paper. Okay, so are there anything else?
Hey, Jing, for the application workflow, what's left? What is left there? Do we need to take a pass to polish it, to format it in the white paper style?
So I think so I'm going to because we already have all the information kind of.
Yeah, I think it's all
so just so basically just need to put them together. So so I will be starting doing that and then let you know if you need any help on that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think we actually have a lot of materials. We just need to consolidate them and then fill in the missing pieces.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, thanks. So I see Ben is there. So you want to give a quick update on the data populator? We were talking about that earlier.
Hey, Shing. Yeah, sorry, I joined the meeting like 10 minutes late. Okay. So I don't know what I missed at the beginning. What about the data populators? Do you want to know?
Oh, just if you just give an update on like what we are doing, the status. I kind of talked about it, but you know more about it.
Yeah. So we basically agreed on an approach to have a CRD that will called like a volume populator, which will be what populators will have to instantiate to basically tell the system that there is another CRD that can be the source of a PVC. So like, today the only two things that can be the sources of a PVC are another PVC or a volume snapshot, and they're sort of implicitly allowed. As we go forward, the idea is anything else that can be the data source of a PVC will need to have an instance of this volume populator CRD. And then there will be a controller that will look at new PVCs getting created. And if they have a data source that doesn't match any of the known valid data sources, you'll get an event that'll tell you, hey, this data source looks invalid. Probably nothing's going to happen with the PVC you just created. And then the other half of the work, and that part of the work is, I have a working prototype. There's a PR. It's currently proposed against the external provisioner repo as a new controller in CRD, but the eventual home may not be there, but that's where I'm doing the work. The other half of the work is we're trying to produce a prototype data populator that contains like a reusable library portion that all populators will hopefully want to leverage, because we've identified a lot of complicated sort of mechanics that have to be followed when you're doing this data population workflow. And then what we want to do is have a sample that says, here's a library that anyone can use. Here's a sample of a very simple populator that uses the library, and find a home for that. And the combination of those two things, I think we can move the feature to beta. But that's not going to happen in 120. 121 is what we're looking at as the best case beta timeframe. Did I lose you guys?
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Any questions or anybody else? Okay. Thanks. So yeah, so I don't see any other.
Hi, Xing. Can I ask a question about the data populator?
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
Hi, Ben. So there's a question for you. I went through the, I think it's the PR or the proposal document yesterday, and one of the use cases mentioned there is obviously backup and restore. So I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about the restore scenario. I think that's where the data populators might make more sense.
Yeah. So the origin of the whole data populators idea, for those who haven't heard me talk about this before, was in a world where you're implementing some form of a backup and restore solution on top of Kubernetes, you can actually do almost all of the work out of tree, with your own CRDs and your own controllers and your own whatever. The one piece of the workflow that is unavoidably touches the Kubernetes core API is when you want to restore a backup to a PVC. If assuming you want to do it through the way that we would restore a snapshot to a PVC by just specifying a PVC with the data source, which is the logical. I mean, it's not the only way to do it, but this is the most obvious and natural way to do it, in my opinion. You have to change this little piece of the core Kubernetes API. I mean, it turns out that there's a lot of other use cases outside of backup and restore that need a similar ability to basically create a new PVC that is not empty but contains some data, and where that data is defined by something. And today your only three options are empty PVC, PVC that's a clone of another PVC, or PVC that's a clone of a snapshot. So this is supposed to open up the doors to a to a whole world of different possibilities for PVC data sources. We could have gone down the road of just adding backup as a fourth option, or adding other ones as specific enumerated options in the Kubernetes API, but that's very slow and cumbersome, and we wanted a generic way to do this. So that's what we're trying to do here with the data populators. And and I do anticipate it being used by the restore workflow of some backup solution that we ultimately agree on.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually a good point. So to compare this data source with the snapshot, right? In that case, it's almost like an instantaneous, right? The moment you create a PVC backed by a snapshot, I guess the volume is supposed to be ready for immediate use. But in case of restore, let's say the data source says some kind of a data populator, my guess is that the data is going to be restored and will probably take some time. Is that the understanding?
So here's the key. So when you create a PVC that is backed, or that is the clone of a snapshot, you don't know how long it's going to take for that PVC to get created. I mean, even when you create an empty PVC, it's not instantaneous. It takes a few milliseconds, or however long it takes to create that empty PVC. The point is you can create your PVC and you can create your pod, and you can sort of tell Kubernetes your whole workflow, and then Kubernetes will hold off on creating the pod until your PVC is bound. And so you as a user, then you no longer care how long it takes for the PVC to get created. Maybe the snapshot can restore in 1 second. Maybe it'll take an hour to restore the snapshot, but either way, your pod will just wait until you have a volume that is restored from that snapshot. I presume you want the same behavior with the backup, right? If I have a backup and I want to restore it, I want to just be able to tell Kubernetes, here's my volume, restore it from this backup, here's all my other stuff, and Kubernetes will just wait until the backup gets restored and then go on with life. And we want to get the same semantics. So backup restores may or may not be fast or slow. It shouldn't matter.
Got it. Yeah, I think that point about being unbound is true. Yeah, that should cover the case. Right. Thank you. So okay, so just to add to this, so your work or the main proposal here is basically what, to allow the validation to basically support this new data source? Is that what it is?
There's several different pieces that all come together to basically make it possible to implement a workflow similar to like the snapshot restore workflow, but for any CRD you can imagine. If we had done this work before we had done snapshots, we would have implemented snapshots on top of it, but we didn't. So snapshots sort of have a lot of custom code here and there that are handled by, in a very special way. But the idea is you should be able to do something like a restore from a snapshot with any CRD.
Right.
And we're trying to create a generic workflow that'll work so that we don't have to do special one-offs every time we want to be able to restore from a new type of thing.
So it's almost like having a driver, basically, for the PVC, right? I mean, you have different drivers for CSI and
what we're calling it the populator, and yes, different populators will have special implementation that somebody will have to write, and there will presumably end up being lots of them over time.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, whoever wants to implement backup and restore might just piggyback on this framework.
Well, but backup and restore is still a special. I mean, I want to be careful here because like backup and restore is one kind of workflow among many, and there's other population workflows that have nothing to do with backup and restore. But in the context of backup and restore, yes, there's a question of like, are we going to have multiple different kinds of backup CRDs with multiple different implementations? Maybe, like that would be kind of bad, I think, but it may be what happens anyways. But like if we do agree on like there is one backup CRD that defines a backup and there's multiple implementations of that, then that goes yet a layer deeper in terms of how we handle drivers for that CRD, because the populator will just say, oh, this is a backup. It is a valid thing to restore data from, so I'm going to say it's okay. And then there will be some sidecar or some controller somewhere that sees PVCs with the data source of backup and then does something. And what it does, it's all TBD. Maybe that thing will have drivers too, but that depends on how we want to design that backup CRD and all that stuff. So I'm just trying to do the really basic work out in front of all that and not dig into the hard part.
Yeah, I know the framework is more important, but when I said backup and restore, actually, I probably just meant restore. I don't know actually how this plays into backup scene.
This
in
doesn't
restore, definitely I can see.
Yeah, this does not take off the backup. Yeah, you still
I think mostly restore.
Yeah, it's for restore. So you can actually use a combination of use volume snapshot API to take snapshot, and then you can use the data populator to do the restore.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true.
Because if you just use create volume from snapshot, then if that's like a local snapshot, you can't really, that's not really a backup, right? So
all right. I mean, in that case, you can just restore by pointing to that snapshot. The PVC can be pointed to the snapshot itself.
That's, yeah, but I mean, so typically your snapshot is probably uploaded somewhere, right? So unless
true.
So depending on your driver, I mean, depending on your CSI driver, if some CSI drivers upload that one already to S3, right? So if you use AWS CPS or GCPD, that's uploaded already. But if you use other drivers, most other drivers, it's just like a local snapshot. So you'll have to upload that. The backup software usually will upload that to another place, right? So yeah.
And use the populator while the data is being brought back from that.
Yeah, you can use the populator to, to provision the PVC with that data source. Yeah. Right. So the backup, volume backup, there's another, that's we were talking about earlier, and there's this, we don't really have a cap, but there's this doc talked about volume backups. So you can take a look at this one. I think Elliot and Alexis are working on this, but this in the Google Doc has some ideas on how that might work.
Yeah, I'll take a look. I mean, I used to attend these meetings more frequently before, but I took a break, and now this is the first time I'm attending after a few months. So yeah, I'll take a look at these documents. Yeah, they look great.
Okay, yeah, but without that, you can still do your backups using snapshots, right? So I mean, this is like not required. You actually you can just use volume snapshot, and you could still do backups.
Yeah, the nice thing about snapshots from end user perspective is you don't really know and you don't really care. You just say, take a copy of my data, restore it, and it just works. And yeah, multiple implementations are possible within that framework. We're hoping the backup ends up being the same way, where you just say backup my data, restore my data, how it works. It's just magic, from the end user perspective. And then there's many different implementations that approach that different ways.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be great if we can all agree on some common API for that. Yeah.
Yeah, even for the common API, it could still be like calling the volume snapshot API to take the snapshot part, and then specify a location to have that data upload somewhere. So I mean, well, yeah.
Just in this respect, right, Jing, there were some discussions. I mean, again, as I said, I didn't attend for a few weeks. So the freeze and unfreeze, right, queries and unqueries hooks, the application. So any progress has been made from the application point of view?
So yeah, so this is for the, so that's the container notifier proposal. So that's for application, for application consistency. Right.
This container notifier is what used to be called the execution hook, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's from, initially we have that execution hook, right? So that's like a CRD. But then we have some review comments saying that we should not be doing that. So now we have this, it's like a inline pod definition. So it's more having kubelet doing those, running those command instead of having another controller doing it. So so that's still being reviewed. So we'll try to make some progress in 1.21. We'll try to make some progress on that. Yeah.
But I think there was also, this is good, but there was also discussion about the application CRDs and where this
so that one has, that's this one, this cap actually has not had any progress for a while. So there is a cap about the application CRD as well. So there is already a application CRD actually. This is like a application backup CRD. So so this is based on the existing application CRD that is already there.
Do we already have application and application?
There is already an application CRD.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you go check, I think it's under Kubernetes 6. There's applications. So that's already beta, I think. Right, Shangqian? I think that's beta. Application.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been beta for a while.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this
do
cap.
You know any? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So this cap is based on that cap. Basically, use that one to arrange, just to decide, what are things belongs to the application. Use that one as the base, and then now come up with some different CRDs for backup and restore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there are any like popular applications that are already utilizing that application.
Are they using the so I think Shangqian, I think you look more into this. It's not a lot, right? There are some references. I'm not sure how many people are really using the application CRD.
Well, there are some users of application CRD. I cannot name exactly which ones, but the application CRD serves the main purpose of defining application CRD. It's slightly different than what we want to achieve from the data protection perspective, right? So that they have a lot of UI, UX considerations in this CRD. If you can take a quick look down the definition, you will understand. They put like image versions, sources, etc., into that. Not only just the group all these components. So I'm not sure the answer is that who is exactly using this in the production.
There is one use case, which is if you want to deploy to Google Marketplace for GKE, you have to define your own application CR that will let GKE interact with the lifecycle of your application. I think that's kind of the fundamental thing here, right? How do you develop tools that will let you interact with the lifecycle of an application, and what do you define that spec as? And I think, there's other definitions as well. So for example, Helm charts, people, in addition to just not using them at all, right? Not having a centralized definition that tools can interact with. So I think it's kind of challenging to use this as a definition and as a basis for another backup and restore CR. Having said that, I think maybe you can have something general purpose that has like a layer of indirection that would interact with that as well.
Okay, thanks. Okay. Yeah, so that's yeah, we actually discussed about this one some time ago. I think Shantian did review this one in this meeting a while back, but we haven't got back to that yet. Okay, other questions, other comments?
Jing, what do we do for graphics for the white paper?
Graphics.
Yeah.
Oh, diagrams, right? So yeah, we probably, but yeah. So let me just start putting those together. I mean, whatever doc we already have, and then we can decide which section would need some diagram. Yeah, right now, I mean, it's a little premature to think about diagrams, right? So, but yeah, we will see. We would need some diagrams.
Okay, yeah. It probably makes sense to consolidate on a tool at least to make them look similar.
Okay, yeah, we can. Yeah, maybe we can. Let's see how that looks like when we put those texts together, and then see what diagrams we need. Yeah, we can. Yeah, we can think about that later.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? All right. Yeah, so in the next meeting, we'll see if we can talk more about the CBT. And I think that's it for today then. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.